I'm sure you've all seen this video by now.
Prime Dorian Yates, Prime Ronnie Coleman, Prime Jay Cutler, and Prime Phil Heath all go on stage. Where's everyone placing?
Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, Dorian Yates, Jay Cutler.
Ooh, that's tough. Prime?
Yeah.
I think Ronnie, man, was just a freak of all natures, no matter what year or anything.
Yeah.
And in a close second, I would say, you said Phil was in there for sure. You gotta go. I gotta go Jade and Dorian.
Dorian fourth?
Yeah, you're gonna hate me for it, but you're thinking, again, I mean, it's an evolution of the game.
Kevin Levrone and Sean Clarida were asked to rank the GOATs of the modern era in their prime. In this video, we're going to compare Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and Phil Heath in their prime in a traditional Supersetman video footage comparison. Choosing the prime physique for these legends is always a debate, but today I went with their nearest to perfection physiques, their versions that presented the least amount of flaws out of their best ones. So for Dorian, we have 1993 before the bicep tear. For Ronnie, we have 1999 since 98 had gyno and 03 was bloated. For Jay, we have his uncrowned version from 2001 where he was objectively better than in 09. And for Phil, we have his 2011 version where he simply had no flaw. Front double biceps all look great, no wonder they are the GOATs of the modern era. You can almost make an argument for any of them to win this pose, but for the purpose of this video, we have to rank them from 1 to 4 in each pose. At number 4, as probably expected, we have Dorian Yates because his arms and biceps don't match the level of the other 3. He's a distant 4th in this regard. However, he might have the most pronounced taper, which makes him underrated in this pose. Now, just as Dorian in 4th was an easy choice, just as easy is Ronnie in 1st. He's got the most impressive guns out of the bunch, with those crazy mountainous peaks. He also has the best overall proportions, being taller and more aesthetic than Phil and Jay. Yes, you heard right, Ronnie was more aesthetic. In 1999 he had a pretty tiny waist, and combined with his long muscular limbs, it's a deadly combo. His only flaw is the shape of his abs here. Between Jay and Phil, it's a toss-up. They both look almost perfect, however different in their own way. Phil has the better overall proportions, but Jay looks more muscular and arguably drier here. Jay also gives the pose a nice touch with the sunken midsection. Like I said, it could go either way, but personally, I'm gonna go with Jay in 2nd and Phil in 3rd in this pose. Next is the front lat spread, and if Dorian took last in the previous pose, he definitely takes 1st in this one. Not too much to discuss here, Dorian owns this pose. It's even more obvious with footage than with pictures. Just as obvious, Phil would be last because of his narrower structure. His only real flaw, if you want, in 2011, especially standing next to wide guys like these other 3 gentlemen. Still, Phil looked great in this pose that year, but out of these 4, he's last. Between Ronnie and Jay, I could be upsetting the Colemanites here because Jay looks really impressive. He's wider than Ronnie and has a more beautiful midsection. The reason he's not beating Ronnie though is the same reason some of you might think Ronnie is actually wider. What actually stopped Jay from having the best lat spread ever is the length of his arms. He's got short arms, which in this pose is a problem. Every short-armed athlete will never be able to fully open up and showcase the lats, especially more if they have thick muscular arms like Jay here. For this reason, I think the overall look of Jay is hurt here in contrast with Ronnie, so Ronnie 2nd and Jay 3rd in this pose. Next, we have the side chest, and it's pretty obvious that Dorian Yates is last again. This will be the theme with the shadow in this comparison. He's either last, 1st, or fighting for 1st. I would also say Jay is a pretty clear 3rd in this pose, as Ronnie and Phil are 1 level above. Phil has the overall thickness, especially through the arms and shoulders where he has Ronnie beat, and he also beats Ronnie downstairs because of the execution showcasing the hanging hamstring. However, Ronnie is a monster in this pose. The level of roundness and thickness combined with the details and paper-thin skin cannot make him lose here, so I would put Ronnie 1st and Phil 2nd in this pose. Back double biceps. We have the best three backs of the modern era in Dorian, Ronnie and Phil, and arguably a fourth in this 2001 version of Jay. Actually, he may not beat a Kai or a Derek in the back double, but he's close. This is quite a strong display from the cut above the rest, however, he remains fourth in this pose. Now, between Dorian, Ronnie and Phil, it's always gonna be debatable. You can't go right for everybody ranking these three, but I'm gonna put it like this. Dorian has arguably the best back, but for the overall pose, I would have him third above Jay here. The arms, the shoulders and the glute ham development hold him down against Ronnie and Phil here. He has the best calves though. Between Ronnie and Phil, Ronnie is always the safest bet, but I'm gonna go as far as saying Phil is first here just for the sheer symmetry and perfection of this pose overall. Phil definitely has the best execution of this pose, perfectly displaying his round, thick, balanced back. So Phil first and Ronnie second here, but it can go either way for sure. Even Dorian has a strong case for first, having the most detailed and the hardest back muscles. Back lat spread, and Jay has to be fourth again. As wide as he may be, he lacks the back details all the other three have. Phil won the back double, but his narrowness gets the worst of him in this lat spread pose, as he's no match to Dorian and Ronnie when spreading the wings. At least not here in 2011. Between Ronnie and Dorian is tough. As a disclaimer, Dorian's footage may not do him justice, but with what we have here, I have to go with Ronnie in first. I'm not sure if Ronnie was heavier than Dorian here, probably not, but as they display this pose, Ronnie simply looks bigger and wider. We will never know how good Dorian would actually look next to these guys on the same stage, but judging by the footage we have here, Ronnie is first and Dorian second in this pose. Side triceps, and up until this point Ronnie was first or second in each pose, but now he steps back for a clear fourth place in this one. He doesn't have the triceps nor the interest to pull out a decent execution to go against these other three who are arguably the best ever in this pose together with Kevin Leverny. Now, Dorian has his own cult when it comes to the side triceps, and the members of this cult won't have it any other way than Dorian being the best ever in this pose. Objectively speaking, Phil has all the arguments to be the best ever in this pose on his side, from having the best triceps in this lineup to the best side leg and great overall display. Jay Cutler is actually underrated in this pose, having a great triceps, the best midsection from the side and a flawless execution. This is so close that you can find arguments for any ranking between these three, but personally I would have Jay in third, Dorian second and Phil Heath first here. Abs and thighs, and for the second time in a row and certainly for the last time, Ronnie gets fourth place. He has great quads, but the shape of his abs and his execution are terrible here. Phil would be third in this pose as he has the least pretty abs aside from Ronnie and the worst taper. However, he's got great thighs. Between Dorian and Jay, it is not hard to tell. I mean, Jay beats him with better abs and better thighs, thus winning his first pose in this crazy comparison. Jay has the best quads in this lineup and arguably of all time too. The last pose is the most muscular. We don't have footage of Dorian hitting the pose, so we're going to be using still pictures. However, pictures or footage, Dorian will always be last in this lineup in the most muscular pose. His rather underwhelming arms and chest development make this arguably his weakest pose, but to his defense, the most muscular was never a mandatory pose during his career. It was only introduced in 2004 as the 8th mandatory pose, which actually makes only Phil Heath have to deal with it considering the versions we are using here. Between the other three guys, as good as Jay may look, he's in third place. He doesn't have freaky guns like Phil or thin skin like Ronnie to stand out, even though he's got great volume and a perfect midsection here. Between Phil and Ronnie, it will always be controversial in this pose. Phil has the better guns and overall fullness, which are crucial in this pose, but what Ronnie has is arguably more muscle than Phil here. Considering this is the most muscular and also the fact that Ronnie is arguably drier too, makes me wanna go with him in this pose, even though personally I might prefer Phil's look here. After adding up each placement they got in each mandatory, the results are as follows. Keep in mind that the lower the score the better, since we added their placement, meaning first is best and fourth is worst. Ronnie Coleman wins pretty decisively with 16 points, followed by Phil Heath with 19 points, who is the clear second, as in third we have Dorian with 22 points, closely followed by Jay with 23 points. Based on our judgment, it would seem Kevin Lebron was right at the beginning of the video with his ranking. However, Sean Clarida's Jay in third and Dorian in fourth argument is pretty valid, as they are separated by only 1 point. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for the algorithm. See you next time.